Book it.
I'm not as well read as I'd like to be. There's just no time to read.
If you're like me, you're always on the go.
And there's always so much work to do. Either I'm busy cooking dinner, or I just have to read. Even hard finding time to reflect, pray, and meditate.
Follow me to find your next read. Adult story time for professionals.
Book it.
Hello and welcome to Adult Story Time for Professionals. I am your host, Dr. Ramela Janine Elkhart-Zezi, PhD in IO Psychology, BA in Economics. If you're curious or care, I minored in studio art in undergrad, and so anyhow. This is the first episode of Adult Storytime for Professionals, and I wanted to do this particular show because I myself don't have a ton of time to read, and I feel badly about it sometimes. But you know, when you get a couple of minutes, you want to make certain that you're reading something that is actually worth the time, and there's nothing worse than like laying out hard, cold cash for a book or an ebook or however you read, and then only to find that the book is horrible. And so anyway, you know, there's always libraries, and you will find that I go to the library to get some of my books that I'll be covering. But for me, Adult Storytime for Professionals was all about the need to kind of understand you know, what's out there available for professionals in terms of must-reads, should-reads, good to know, so that when you're networking, you don't sound like you're an idiot and you don't know what's going on. So anyway, that's why I wanted to start Adult Storytime for Professionals. Now, the format of the show is going to be pretty free-flowing, if you haven't already picked that up by this intro. So the format will be about a half hour where I discuss one book per episode, and I won't necessarily give a thumbs up or thumbs down about should you read it, but I'll give an indication if I plan to try and work it into my schedule. You know, we're all very busy, time is very limited, and so we have to make choices. And so based upon, you know, me just kind of opening the book for the first time, I've never, you know, looked at this book that I'm talking about today, which is This Is Your Brain on Parasites. If you can see, the spine has never been cracked, it's never been opened. I will read what's on the back of the book. I'll read maybe like the introduction or something like that, and then I'll kind of randomly flip through and read passages and give my reactions to those passages as I do so. So that is what Adult Storytime for Professionals is all about. And with that, let's get started. So again, this is, the book this week is This Is Your Brain on Parasites. How Tiny Creatures Manipulate Our Behavior and Shape Society. And this is by Kathleen McAuliffe. So I had heard about the whole parasite thing, I don't know, sometime last year. I'll say more toward the middle, summer part, maybe even earlier than that. And I read an article that basically talked about how cats have a parasite that can make their owners crazy. And I thought that was kind of funny because, you know, and I don't know if I should, but I did. I thought it was kind of funny because we all heard the joke about the crazy cat lady. Well, the science seemed to suggest that there might actually be something to that theory of how, you know, there really are crazy cat ladies and the cats are really making them crazy. But it's not because they have too many of them. It's because maybe there's been some sort of transmission of parasites from feline to human. So when I heard about this book, I was like, interesting. So let's see what it says on the back of the book here. A fascinating account of an extraordinary suite of biological phenomena only recently come to light, and proving that given enough time and enough evolving species to work with, natural selection can accomplish almost anything. And that nice little liner note quote is from Edward O. Wilson, who is a professor emeritus at Harvard University and author of Oh, well, let's see if we can do this. Consilence. Okay, whatever that. I've never heard of that book. Maybe I should get it and practice pronouncing the title. But all right, let's move on. Another liner note here is from Valerie Curtis, who is Director of Environmental Health Group of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and author of Don't Look, Don't Touch, Don't Eat. This book has all the elements of a crime thriller: violence, blood, gore, race, and sex. But here the criminals are parasites. McAuliffe tells a vivid and sometimes horrifying tale of the hijackers that control our brains and our behavior. In company with the best science writers, she shows us that reality can be more interesting than fiction. So I stumbled over that because I was still actually thinking about the brain and behavior part. You know, the psychology 101 definition that you get in undergrad if you only take intro is that psychology is the study of brain, behavior, and mental processes. So that's another reason why this book was really kind of interesting to me, and kind of touched on that. So then the last liner note quote is from Michael A. Huffman, Associate Professor and Primate Research Institute person at Kyoto University, Kyoto, Japan. I love that word, Kyoto. Anyway, that's a long story. Maybe when I cover an art book, I'll have an art book on Japan. I can explain that. Be prepared to throw away all your preconceptions about the order of life, humorous, inspiring, and macabre. This is infectious reading, and I bet he intended that pun. This is infectious reading in the tradition of giants like Robert S. Desowitz and Jarrett Diamond. Sorry, Mr. Desowitz, for butchering it the first time. So before I go any further, I actually want to thank the publisher, because the publisher provided me with this review copy. By providing me with the copy, I certainly didn't promise, any sort of favorable reactions to it, but I do want to disclose that. So thank you to the publisher for providing this copy for review. All right, so here's what we've got on the desk jacket. A riveting investigation of the myriad ways that parasites control how other creatures, including humans, think, feel, and act. These tiny organisms can only live inside another animal. And as Kathleen McAuliffe reveals, they have many evolutionary motives for manipulating their host's behavior. Far more often than appreciated, these puppeteers orchestrate the interplay between predator and prey. With astonishing precision, parasites can coax rats to approach cats, spiders to transform the patterns of their webs, and fish to draw the attention of birds that then swoop down on to feast upon them. We humans are hardly immune to the profound influence of parasites. Organisms we pick up from our own pets are strongly suspected of changing our personality traits and contributing to recklessness, impulsivity, and even suicide. Again, cat ladies. Microbes in our gut affect our emotions and the very wiring of our brains. Germs that cause colds and flu may alter our behavior even before symptoms become apparent. Parasites influence our species on the cultural level too. As McAuliffe documents, subconscious fear of contagion impacts virtually every aspect of our lives, from our sexual attraction to social circles to our morals and political views. Drawing on a huge body of research, she argues that our dread of contamination is an evolved defense against parasites and a double-edged sword. The horror and revulsion we feel when we come in contact with people who appear diseased or dirty, helped pave the way for our civilization, but may also be the basis for major divisions in societies that persist to this day. In the tradition of Jared Desmond's Guns and Germs and Steel and Neil Shubin's In Your Inner Fish, This Is Your Brain on Parasites is both a journey into cutting-edge science and revelatory examination of what it means to be human. So I have this strange thing about my hands being sticky. And I always wondered, just because, somehow my ancestors evolved to think sticky makes you sick. So if there's something on a surface and I accidentally put my hands down on it and it's sticky, like tacky to the touch, I'm like completely grossed out. So, I don't know, it's probably, again, some sort of evolutionary thing, but moving on. All right, so the first page here I turn to is the introduction. And let's see here. We like to think of ourselves as in the driver's seat, choosing where to go, whether to speed up or slow down, when to change lanes. We make the decisions and bear the consequences. This is a convenient, even necessary belief. If we jettison the notion of free will, the laws that hold people accountable for their actions begin to crumble. The world becomes an unruly or even terrifying place. Alien beings that turn us into zombies, bloodthirsty vampires, and sex-crazed robots are standard science fiction fare precisely because they evoke the horror of losing control, or worse, becoming slaves to creatures bent on exploiting us for their own gain. So it's disconcerting to think that an invisible passenger might have a hand on the steering wheel, vying to move us into one direction when we'd rather go another. When we let up on the accelerator, an unseen foot presses harder. Parasites are like that invisible passenger. Okay, so that was pretty good, like a little intro there. It builds up, I think, interest in the topic, and I don't know, I was following the analogy, and I'm actually pretty interested in seeing what comes next. So anyway, parasites are like that invisible passenger, adept at outwitting our immune systems. They sneak aboard our bodies, and then the delivery begins. They cause rashes, lesions, aches, and pains. They eat us from the inside out, use us to incubate their young, sap our energy, blind, poison, maim, and sometimes kill us. But that's not the full extent of their clout. Some parasites have another trick up their sleeves, an awesome hidden power that astounds and confounds even scientists who study them for a living. Simply stated, these parasites are masters of mind control, whether as a tiny virus or as big as a 6-foot-long tapeworm. Okay, that's gross. Gross. They have found all kinds of devious methods to manipulate their behavior, to manipulate the behavior of their hosts, and that includes many researchers now strongly suspect humans. The impetus for this book was a discovery on the internet. I'm a science journalist, and one day, while foraging for interesting topics to write about, I stumbled across information about a single-cell parasite that targets the brains of rats. By tinkering with the rodent's neurological circuits, exactly how is still a matter of fervent study, the invader transforms the animal's deep, innate fear of cats into an attraction, thus luring it straight into the jaws of its chief predator. This is a felicitous outcome, not only for the cat, but also, I was stunned to learn, for the parasite. It turns out the feline gut is exactly where the organism needs to be to complete the next stage of its reproductive cycle. Nature is amazing. Nature is amazing. This revelation got me thinking about my own cat, who was fond of dropping dead rodents at my feet. Horrified as I was by this habit, I could not help admiring her hunting prowess. Now I wondered if she was so clever or the parasite. As I continued reading, more surprising news greeted me. Microscopic organisms is a common inhabitant of the human brain because cats can transmit it to us when we come into contact with their feces. Say, cat lady. I don't know how many more times I'm going to say cat lady during this video, but this was like ridiculous to me. It was scary and horrifying, and just, they're so cute, especially as kittens, but, the idea that they could be harboring something. Take care of your cats, take care of your pets, take them to the vet, take care of them. But anyway, perhaps the parasite was meddling with our brains too, speculated a Stanford neuroscientist associated with the research. I contacted him to find out what he meant and was pointed in the direction of a biologist in Czechoslovakia. I don't know if Czechoslovakia still exists. I think it's the Czech Republic, but okay, I'm not certain about that. He's a bit of a wild man, he warned me, but I think it would be worth your while to speak to him. I called Prague, and over the span of an hour, I was told a tale as bizarre as any I had heard in my profession. It occurred to me on several occasions that the person at the other end of the line might be a kook. But I pushed those thoughts aside, and I kept listening because it was not impossible to. Because it was impossible not to. I'm a sucker for a great story, and this one had all the elements of a first-rate medical thriller. It was by turns creepy, scary, weird, and inspiring. What's more, if true, it had important health ramifications. After that conversation ended, I called around to other experts on this cat parasite for a reality check. I did this rather sheepishly at first, out of fear of sounding gullible, but one source after another said the Czech's ideas, though far from proven, deserved serious scrutiny. Okay. So, why don't we skip ahead a little bit and see? Well, let's do a table of contents here. What's in the table of contents? So, hitching a ride, zombified, the first chapters before parasites were cool. Dangerous liaisons, gut fillings, microbes made me fat. That one seems interesting. Healing instinct, the forgotten emotion, parasites and prejudice, parasites and piety, the geography of thought. I'm just wondering, if there's somehow maybe some of these microbes are behaving in ways affecting the brains of people who we have kind of entrusted with a lot, and they're not really functioning as well as they should because they're actually infected with some sort of parasite. But okay, anyway, so let's see here. Let's just start with page 9. And oh, by the way, this book has, including the index, how many pages? 268 pages, including the index. So and there's some, gross. Okay, so here's some illustrations. Okay, I don't know what that's about. The zombie ant infected with a parasite fungus called, or Pheocordipsis. While on the ground, an ant picks up fungal spores, which sends out shoots that invade the body. The fungus then instructs the insect to mount vegetation and lock onto the underside of a twig or leaf. Once the ant is frozen in place, the fungus sprouts from its head and forms fruiting structures that burst, raining spores down on ants below, and the cycle repeats. That is thoroughly gross. That's gross. All right, let's see. This one here is a poor spider. This is a spider and this is a parasite. A parasitic wasp has attached its egg to a spider's abdomen. As the egg grows into a larva, it injects chemicals into the spider that cause it to replace the normal web with a more free-form design that will serve as the wasp's nursery. So the wasp, as it grows, makes the spider sick. So the normal web would look like this. But then after, the wasp has released its venom or chemical or whatever it is, the spider starts making a home for the wasp. That's crazy. That's crazy. Wow. Wow. All right, so then there's let's see. The red clouds are swarms of tiny brine shrimp. Okay, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. But basically, I'll get a little closer for a second. All right, awesome. So these little red pools are in some water here, and it says, the red clouds are swarms of tiny brine shrimp infected with tapeworms, which prod them to seek other infected shrimp, creating a rich seafood broth that can easily be scooped up by flamingos, the parasite's next host. So it's like they make themselves visible to the flamingos. I guess I just have to follow that under, or file that under amazing. Okay, I don't know what to do without that. I'm looking for some other options here. There's some sort of monkey licking its foot. I don't know what that's about. But something tells me you could get sick from licking your foot. So I'm going to skip that. Oh, wait, no. Okay, so I take that back. He's licking his foot for a good reason. It says under here, saliva is rich in antimicrobial compounds that prevent infection, likely the reason why so many animals lick their wounds. So, they show the primate, and then they show a human, both licking their wounds, and the idea is that this has some sort of antimicrobial stuff in it. Unless you're already sick. Okay. Let me see here. They actually have a photo of the cat guy. So he's the guy that did the research that I had read about. And this is the cat that he thought was making him crazy. So I guess apparently she covers that in here. But, and he, no disrespect, but I could see how maybe there might be an issue there, but shame on me. Oh, that's gross. Okay, I'm gonna tap out of that. It was just a really, here I'll show you. A really gross photo of a guy putting worms in his mouth. Disgusting. So I'm not even gonna go there with that. But all right, we'll move on. What's this guy? So as you can see, I trailed off reading, and this book really is very interesting to me. This is Your Brain on Parasites by Kathleen McAuliffe. I probably will commit time to try and finish reading this at some point in the future, maybe the distant future. But I enjoyed what I read so far, and again, probably will try to find time to fit it in my schedule. So until next time, thanks for watching this episode of Adult Storytime for Professionals. Bye-bye.